Hello everybody, welcome back to Testing Basics. We're doing knitwear because it's January and it's cold, and unfortunately it's going to continue to be cold for the foreseeable and we must wear knits. This time we're doing wool. That was my criteria. I told myself it had to be at least 90% wool. Nowadays it's much easier to find a cashmere jumper online or in store than it is a wool jumper. This was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. I asked on Instagram, as I always do, what brands you all wanted to see, and by far the most popular ones were Uniqlo, COS, a brand called, it's spelled B-A-B-A, I'm assuming it's Barbar, as in Barbar sheep, the noise sheep makes, but I don't actually know, which I really liked. I went and looked on them, but they're all one size only, so that didn't feel right to include that in Testing Basics, but honourable mention to them in terms of so many people wanted to know about them and are obviously interested in them as a brand. But yeah, I haven't included them in this. But as usual, we've got 5 from high street to high end. Let's jump straight in. They are all behind me. They're all inside out because I've been wearing them. We'll start with Uniqlo, £29.90, 100% wool. It doesn't disclose what kind of wool. Some of them have more information when they just say wool, but this one just says wool. I have this in black in a size medium. It's just they're all just long sleeve crew neck knits. So Uniqlo size medium, £29.90. Moving up from there we have Arket, which was also really requested. They all come in lots of different colours, so I have varying colours because obviously I've acquired 5 knits and want them in different colours for obvious reasons. This one is also in a medium, as is generally my preference in knitwears. This is a responsible wool standard certified jumper, and its exact wording about its composition is, drumroll please while I find it, 100% wool, no further information, but responsible wool this time around. So yeah, that's Arket, also in a medium. £67. This was actually sent to me. I try and avoid doing gifted stuff in Testing Basics, but 'tis the season for being sent knitwear if one finds himself being an influencer, as I have found myself. So it felt pointless just buying more for the sake of not having gifted. So you're just all gonna have to trust me that if I don't like it, I'll still be honest about it and it's not getting special treatment because it's gifted. That was gifted though. From there we have COS, which I've dropped on the floor accidentally. This is the only one, I've messed up a tiny bit because this is the only one that actually isn't 100% wool. Like I said, it was quite hard to find 100% wool ones, so I dropped it down to 90%, which is what this is. But as you'll see throughout this video, I then end up finding this quite hard to categorise because of it not being exactly 100% wool, and I have to hold my hands up that was my mistake a little bit. So this is 90% wool, 9% polyamide and 1% elastane. It has a very different texture to the other ones. I talk about the textures of them a lot more throughout the video. This is also in a medium. This one is a high neck. I said at the beginning they're all crew necks today, and that was a blatant lie. So I apologise for lying at the beginning of the video. This one has a slight high neck, but they do have loads of knits with just crew necks as well. It was just struggling to find 100% wool one, and I failed on that, and as you'll see throughout the video, that kind of does present some issues. But this is in a lovely navy blue one, and we all know how strongly I feel about navy blue jumpers. Jumping up from there to one that I'm wearing, and this is from a brand called Navygrey. This was sent to me, this was that was £115, the COS one. Did I say that? I don't know if I said that. Anyway, this one is £295, quite a jump up, 100% wool, but we're going to check again. Exactly. Oh, 100% Scottish spun lamb's wool. You get a lot more information when you're spending more money on things, apparently. And this is actually in a size small because it's their, I believe they call it their oversized knit. I'm definitely glad I got a small in this. Sizing wise, the medium, I'm a UK 8, pretty much exactly, I would say. So normally we're a small if I want something tight fitting, but I want knits to be a bit baggier, and I often find that with a small, the arm length isn't long enough for me. But this is definitely an oversized fit, so go for your normal size with this, don't size up. But yeah, this is Navygrey in a size small, 100% wool at £295. And then we jump up one more time from there to our most expensive one for this time around, which is Toteme. This was gifted as well, I said that, didn't I? This I bought off Net-a-Porter, and it was £450. It's a grey jumper, and once again we're checking the label for the exact wording. This is in a size small. Also glad I got a small in this, because it's not oversized in the way that this one is, but a small is definitely perfect, so go true to size with this one. This one is 98% wool, 2% polyamide, and that makes it feel a bit better that they're not all 100% wool except cos, so that's good. And it's in this lovely grey colour, also a crew neck one. You'll see more, but this, I'm going to spoil it a bit, but this has a very different texture to the other ones. In fact, I'm going to compare it for you now actually, because we don't do many side by sides, but can you see? This has like an open weave in it, which is what they're all sort of like, except the cos one as well. And this is almost felt like. And then the cos one, which we'll compare to 100% wool one, it looks more woolen than it feels in real life. Really nice shade of blue though, isn't it actually? But yeah, it's kind of like a much lighter weight knit than this sort of a knit. And then these two, the Uniqlo, Arket, Navygrey, varying softness, which I'll talk about later, but very similar sort of weave to them. Is that the right phrase? Anyway, I hope that is an informative start to this video. I've worn them all at least once. I've worn them all numerous times actually. So I've been filming this for about 3 weeks. Let's jump into the next bit. Please do not pay any attention to the ginormous mess behind me. I'm shooting today and outfit planning creates a big old mess. Uniqlo is what we're starting with. This is the one that is £30 in a medium, 100% lamb's wool. I will tuck it back in, I just wanted to show you it like that. I'm wearing it with some chinos from J. Crew, some, what are these called? Slip-ons, but they're kind of like espadrille shaped, but anyway, these from Joseph, I'm really old. A belt from Prada. I'm about to put a coat on over the top, but this is it fresh out of the packet, if you will. Great sleeve length. I'm glad I got the medium. I think a small would have been too small for me. Really good length in the body to tuck into higher waisted stuff, but also would work well with like a lower rise thing. I'll probably end up wearing every one of them a couple of times. Yeah, Uniqlo. This is the final look. I've just added on a cap which belongs to my dad, my Calvin Klein coat, a little brown suede Savette bag, but quite smart. I really like this though. It's sort of preppy with the chinos and the cap. And I've just got a little Uniqlo grey t-shirt on underneath because it's so cold and we need the layers. But yeah, here we go. Hello everybody, I'm here to talk about Uniqlo knitwear. That does get hair stuck to it a little bit. Right, I wore this all day and all evening. I don't wash jumpers after every wear. Don't tell anyone that. I just told all of you about the secrets here. Because that would just be a boring, wouldn't it? So I often wear t-shirts under it, but for the purpose of this, I'm t-shirtless underneath so that we can judge how scratchy or itchy it might be, because wool jumpers can be scratchy and itchy, as we all know, and this is not scratchy and itchy at all. If I was to make a scratchy itchy scale, I would give this a 2 out of 10. You can feel it, like it's not like cashmere where it's just a soft sensation on your skin. There is a sensation on my skin, but it's not scratchy or itchy. I think the shape of this is great. I love the length of it. A medium is perfect. I would normally, on my top half, get a UK size 8 or 10, generally. The length is such a good length, and the sleeves are such a good length. So far it's not bobbling, but I wouldn't expect bobbling after just one day's wear. I think that's going to be more of like a long-term test, because they will all hopefully take a while to bobble, and they're all going to bobble because wool does just do that, and I don't necessarily think that I should rate something badly for that reason. You just have to make sure you're debobbling things and looking after the clothes if you want them to last for a long time, basically. But yeah, I really can't fault this. For £30, it's great. As always, Uniqlo have set the bar for knitwear really high, and I'm really glad that I've started with this one. So yeah, can't fault it at all. I think the shape of it, the way it holds its shape, I think it's really flattering over the boobs, everything. Faultless, really. Good morning, everybody. We have on Toteme today. This one is, how much was this one? 450, 420 pounds? Can't remember exactly, but I will have just said. This is in a size small, which is perfect. I recommend going with your normal size. I'd say this has a very similar fit to the Uniqlo one. Really good long sleeves and very long arms, and these sleeves are very nice and long on me. Kind of like would sit on your hips on through the length of the body. God help me. I am drinking a coffee, but it doesn't seem to be kicking in yet. The difference in the shape and the fit, I would say, is that I think this one's going to have a tendency to tuck under more like that. I haven't been tucking it under and then keep noticing it doing that, which I personally don't mind at all. That is going to be a preference thing, whereas the Uniqlo one definitely wasn't doing that. The texture is completely different. I'm slightly worried about how I'm going to compare these. The Uniqlo one is much thinner. This is like a thicker, more compacted wool. I hope you can kind of see from the close-up here. It's almost felt-like. I think it's definitely going to be warmer. I was just sat doing my makeup upstairs. I do have the heating on at home, and I've just got a little Uniqlo t-shirt on underneath, actually, dripping in sweat. It's like -3 outside today as well, so we're really going to put it to the test of how warm this actually is, and I'll check in with you all later. But yeah, very, very, very different texture, like a felty boiled wool almost, which I like. I think the structure of it is really nice, and it's definitely thicker and warmer. It does feel more expensive than the Uniqlo one. I really like how narrow this detail is. Neckline, thank you everybody. Just can we just get this coffee to work? I like that detail. It feels more expensive than the Uniqlo one, but on first wear, I mean, the price difference is huge, so definitely not necessarily worth the huge price jump, even though there is a difference in the quality. And also just a huge difference in the texture, like I keep saying. You might not like this kind of texture. I'll wear it without a t-shirt at some point to judge how scratchy it may or may not be. But the Uniqlo one is, yeah, much thinner and much more fluid in its texture. So this is Toteme. Okay, I have the Toteme one on. What's that? Nothing? I can see something on the camera but not in the mirror. How confusing. Anyway, I've got it on today with nothing on underneath, and it is not scratchy in the slightest. I wouldn't describe the Uniqlo one as scratchy either, but if I had to pick one as scratchy or scratchier, the Uniqlo one would be it. This, however, has started to bobble, which is an inevitability with a knit, with a wool jumper or a cashmere jumper. Can you see? But after, this is only the second day that I'm wearing it, I do think that's quite quick for something to start bobbling. I think it will be one that debobbles very, very, very easily, and very satisfyingly actually, because it's such a dense knit. The bobbles will really they're like, you can pick them off even really easily. They just stand very much off the actual knit itself. So I think it will be one that would be easy to maintain. And like I said, we do expect all knits to bobble when we're wearing them. But what do we think about it bobbling on, well, less than 48 hours worth of wear? Or all day yesterday. But yeah, aesthetically, I really, really, really like it. I think the neckline's really nice. The shape in the body's nice. It's really warm. It's been 0 degrees today, and I went out this morning with this with nothing on underneath and a coat, and I was warm enough. It's definitely warmer than the Uniqlo one. So it gets points for that. I am disappointed with the amount of bobbling, actually, the more that I'm looking at it. And generally, for the price difference, it's not that much better than the Uniqlo one. I'm interested to see how it washes as well. I'm a bit anxious about it because it's so, it probably says dry clean only on the side. Actually, let me look. Because it's so dense, it could really easily compact more. So I'm a bit worried about that. Oh, well, it's got a responsible wool standard certification, which is a relief. It's not going to do anything reckless. And the washing instructions are hand wash only. Cool hand wash only. So maybe we need to hand wash them all to actually, it's kind of not fair to shove it in a washing machine when that's not what the washing instructions are. So maybe I'll hand wash them all at the end of this week. But yeah, that was the Toteme one. I've literally just taken this out of the packaging, which you can see there. This is the COS one. I can't believe what a different texture this is. It's 90% wool. It's just completely different to touch. I don't know how to describe it. It's smooth. It does feel like a knit, but it feels more like very, very, very thick t-shirt material. It's not like, oh God, that's not helping us, is it? It's like not there. I think you can kind of get the impression there. It's like it's really, really tightly woven, but not, oh, I like that seam, but not in the way that here, this one's here, you can see that's like knitty and woolly. This is like, how is it bitty already? I've had it on me for about 5 minutes. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. I'm doing such a bad job. It feels like a knit, but just very, very different. And I will work on some more descriptive words, some more adjectives as we go on so that you actually understand what I mean. But it's high neck, navy blue. I have it in a medium. Probably could have got a small, but I'm not going to swap it because I'm happy with this. More like a batwing fit than the other two. Quite wide through the body, mid-length through the body as well. Really good long sleeves. I would imagine a small would have been slightly shorter in the sleeve, but definitely still long enough. I like the narrowness of the cuffs versus then the way the sleeve goes out a little bit. I think that's a really nice little detail. Nice neck, which we kind of won't talk about because I haven't done all high neck, so disregard that. But yeah, I'm going to have to wear a t-shirt underneath this today, 100%. It's not going to be as warm as the others. I would think of this more of like a spring jumper rather than like depths and depths of winter one. But yeah, I really like the fit of it. I think it's really flattering. I just got on some jeans from J. Crew and these very comfortable new suede little booties from Sur. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Which I bought yesterday actually, and they are so incredibly comfortable. So yeah, this is COS. Interesting how different they're all feeling to wear. Okay, I've been wearing the COS one for a few days now. I definitely am going to find it hard to compare to the others, unfortunately, because the texture is so different. It's definitely more of a springtime knit. It's gone up to 10 degrees again today, so it's positively tropical in London. And it's been way more appropriate for a day like today than the previous days when it was about -5 in London. But I think the shape of it is really, really beautiful. The way it hangs off the body is really nice. The good thing about it being a slightly lighter weight knit is that even though it's got this almost like bat wing shape slightly, it's not bunched up under your armpits under a coat. If I had a chunky knit with this shape, I'd be really uncomfortable in it with a coat on top. And yeah, I do think because of its slightly like more slinky material, it does hang off the body really beautifully. Sometimes, because I've got big-ish boobs, I sometimes find knitwear quite hard, and especially high neck ones, because you just kind of sometimes look like you've just got a shelf, because there's no definition of anything. But with this, again, there's slightly more fluid fabric. I'm not getting the shelf problem that I sometimes get with high neck knits. It definitely clings onto fluff and hair quite enthusiastically. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a tricky one to rank alongside the others, but I do really like it. But I'm definitely not going to recommend it for warmth and coziness. But I think it's a really great knit. So now we've just got, have we just got one more to do? Oh no, we've got Arket. We've got 2 more to do, don't we? 2 more. Right, I have on the Arket one today, which has really, really, really long sleeves, but they kind of come folded up. This one comes in lots of different colours. I went with this sort of lilac-y grey colour, which I do really like, but I'm finding it a little hard to match with denim. I had it with some blue jeans earlier and it all just looked a bit sort of pastel. So I don't know that I would actually pick this colour again, but as is often the way with this video, I have just bought 5 jumpers, so it's kind of okay for me to pick a different coloured one. This is not the warmest. I'd say it's warmer than the COS one, but not as warm as the Uniqlo. Definitely not as warm as the Toteme one, which is still winning for warmest. Excuse the fact it's got a crease on it, it's been folded up. I really like the seam details of these like drop shoulders, and all of this stitching here is, I think, is really nice. And the neckline's nice and the sleeves are really nice. This comes in loads of different colours too. Did I just say that? I think I just did, so you don't have to get this colour at all. Not wild about the splits at the side, but that's just a very, very, very personal thing. And I think overall it's got a nice fit to it. Softness wise, I'd categorise it as similar to the Uniqlo one. Really similar in texture to that actually. Very easy to compare it to that one. If I was to say which was scratchier, it's the same. I think they're both the same. So yeah, I mean, I really like it, but my first impression is that it is very similar in how it feels and how it fits to the Uniqlo one, and obviously is coming in at a higher price point. So yeah, I'm going to wear it for the day. I'm going to put a t-shirt on underneath it because it's still pretty cold. I guess it deserves points that the Uniqlo one doesn't get because it does have these extra detailing on them, which is really nice. So you do get a little extra something. I don't love that. Do you know what I mean? I don't love that. I don't love that bit. Yeah, don't know that. I love the shape entirely. But yeah, this is Arket. I'm gonna put a t-shirt underneath, a coat over the top. Same thing every day. Okay, Arket one. Just listening to the Smile new album, by the way, which is great, and making a cup of tea. This one, unfortunately, is probably my least favourite so far. It's the body length and shape for me. It feels like it sits off my boobs in a very straight down way. So it's like very boxy fit, and the way that it doesn't cut in at all around the waist and just hangs off the body. I don't find that flattering on me, personally. I feel like it is making me look quite square-like on my top half. Generally, I don't often find knits that flattering, but they are an essential part of our winter life. But yeah, definitely learning from this that something that slightly gathers in at the waist or has some sort of a waistband is a bit more flattering. But it's soft. I really do like the detailing on it. I think in that way you're getting something that feels a little bit special for your money, and it does feel more special in that way than the Uniqlo one, like the extra detailing and things. But I honestly prefer the Uniqlo one in terms of the cut in the body and the simplicity of it. Softness is so similar as well. There feels like very little way to compare. Oh, I've got something on it. Oh, very little way to compare the softness of the fabric, and again, like in comparatively to the COS one, that one's just going to be so hard to rank in amongst the other ones. But yeah, least favourite so far, I think, unfortunately, but as often is the case in this series, for kind of slightly tenuous reasons. But something's got to be my least favourite. I'm sorry, Arket. Okie dokie, it's the final jumper, it's the final countdown. Navygrey one. My niggle with this, okay, now we're going to start positive. This is the softest. I haven't got a t-shirt underneath this because it's actually quite nice outside today. It is, the quality of this feels the best by a long way. Hard to describe why. It feels thick, but like it could be cashmere, kind of like a wool jumper in a different way to the way the Toteme one is, because the Toteme one's very thick as well. But like I keep saying, that's almost like felt-like. This is just very woolly. I mean, really, really, really soft. The quality feels beautiful. So thick, just, yeah, so nice to wear. It feels great on my skin. It feels more expensive than the Uniqlo. It feels more expensive than the COS. It feels more expensive. What was the third? Then Arket. Feels more expensive than, it feels like the most expensive and the most luxurious and the best quality one. This might be a very specific thing for me, but I wish the sleeves were longer. I mean, there's just something about the proportions of it, for me, that are ever so slightly off. I think maybe it's because the sleeves are sort of narrower down the length of the arm as well, as opposed to being baggy, so that the whole thing feels baggy and oversized. But that's been very niggly because the sleeves are obviously long enough, and I am very gangly. I'm like Mr. fucking Tickle. So if you're not proportioned like Mr. Tickle, then the sleeves are probably going to be a better length on you. I think I just prefer a looser, baggier sleeve. Obviously when rolled up, very different story anyway. It wouldn't be as easy to tuck in or wear with like a high-waisted jean as say actually any of the others, because this is the longest one in the body, so you're gonna have more fabric to contend with, but it's by no means impossible. I love the colour of it, love the red stripe, but we won't give it points for that because I picked a stripy one when they do have plain ones. So yeah, very small niggle over the shape of it, but the quality of this one, just from where the first wear, is truly feels above and beyond the rest. Hello guys, I wore this out for dinner last night. I'm wearing it again today. By far the comfiest and the warmest one and the best quality feeling one for sure. My only niggle is the shape and the cut of it, which is definitely going to be very personal to everybody's body type and preference in knitwear. But yeah, quality wise, there's no comparison actually in some ways. The thickness of this is considerably thicker than the rest, apart from the Toteme one, but that's just different and not as nice feeling on the skin. I have got a t-shirt under this today, but yesterday I wore it with nothing else on underneath, and it was just luxuriously soft and wonderful, and yeah, warm enough to be doing that in, we're now in February, thank God for that, in February, but still the depths of winter in England. So yeah, Navygrey. I'm gonna wash them all now, which I'm not looking forward to doing, and I'm gonna hand wash them. I will be honest, I would normally just put them in a washing machine on a wool wash, but I'm gonna follow the instructions on the labels for the purpose of this video, because it's not very fair to ignore those and then potentially slag them off for shrinking when I've deliberately not done as I've been told. So I'm gonna hand wash them, do my best to dry them flat, which is sort of a bit tricky, isn't it, on radiators and things. I haven't got a drying rack, but we'll pop back on how that goes. Okay, everybody, final section. I've hand washed them all. They've all just been drying on various radiators around the house, so unfortunately not drying completely flat, which isn't ideal, but it's the best I can do. There are pros and cons to each of these. It's been quite hard to categorise. As is often the way, I'm putting the most expensive one in last place, which is Toteme, which is still on the radiator down here. It's been on this radiator for over 24 hours and it is still wet. And the reason it's going in last place is, as I suspected, it's washed weirdly. It's obviously not fully dry, but I literally can't wait any longer for this to dry. Otherwise this video is never ever going to be finished, I feel like. But it's kind of compacted a bit more. It's not shrunk, but it just doesn't feel how it did when I got it at all. It feels a lot stiffer, and also the amount that it's bobbled, can you see that on the sleeves there? I think is really bad. They've all been worn a similar amount of times. They're all gonna bobble obviously in the long run, that's completely inevitable. But this one has definitely bobbled the most. I don't know if it's because the wool is so felt like that it shows up the most, but also it kind of is irrelevant as to why it looks like that. I just don't think I would expect this level of bobbling after so few wears, and none of the others have bobbled like this as well. I do absolutely love the shape of this. I love the colour of it. I think I will go on to wear it a lot, but you can definitely get grey knits that are as nice, probably even nicer, I'd say, for less money. It is one of the warmest, so if I was to rank this warmest, it would be joint first, along with the Navygrey one. So it does deserve points for that. However, I don't want to rank it on warmth alone when, like I said, there's been some issues with it washing. And I just, like, you definitely couldn't put this in the washing machine. I think even on like a cold wash, it would shrink just from being spun so much. And yeah, the fact it does feel slightly different, and even the fact it's taking this long to dry is really, for me anyway, is really, really impractical. Like having to have a knit, having to have your heating on for this amount of time, like definitely impractical when all the others have dried a lot quicker. So sorry Toteme, last place. In second to last place, I don't know which one to put, torn between COS and Arket. I I'm gonna put these in joint for different reasons, which is really hard. The COS one out of all of them has washed the best, I would say. It dried really quickly, probably dried in like a couple of hours on the radiator. It looks, I mean, exactly the same. They all do except from the Toteme one though, actually, in fairness. I think the cut of this is really beautiful. When I just edited the whole video and was watching it back. And when I'm wearing it, I'm like, God, that does look really nice. It hangs on the body in a really nice way. The shape of the body is great. I know at some point I talk about the Arket one, sort of hanging off the body a lot more. While this one doesn't have like a waistband or elasticated waist in any way, it still has that like slight cocoon shape, really flattering. The details, like the way that the sleeves billow out. To say this is over £100 as well, which I think personally think is expensive for, I know it's a high-end high street brand, but it's still a high street brand. And I do think that's very expensive for a knit from the high street. It does have, to me, quite a very like chic and expensive silhouette to it. The reason I'm not ranking it higher is because to be classified as a wool jumper, it's just nowhere near warm and cozy enough or woolen enough. I think, for instance, if you were shopping online for a wool jumper and ordered this, you would be slightly disappointed with the texture of the fabric. It is a knit, there's no denying that, but compared to the other ones, it just doesn't feel woolen, and I still haven't found the adjectives I need to describe that better, which I apologise for, but it has to lose points for that. It's quite not living up to its own category, I would say. That being said, I think I would get a lot of wear out of this. I don't want to talk about the neck too much because the others don't have that option to gain points for, but I will say that I think it's part of what makes it such a beautiful cut and will be something that I reach for a lot in the future. And from its first wash, I get the impression it's going to wash very well into the future as well. Because it's a slightly different texture, I don't think it's going to bobble. It's just not got that softness where it feels like the extra fibres are going to come off it in the way that the other ones do, so that they end up bobbling. So I think in terms of the longevity of it, it's probably going to wear in really well, which makes it more worthwhile, the price tag. But I do still think it's a lot of money for the high street and probably isn't quite worth that price tag, if I'm honest. So that's coming in joint fourth, along with the Uniqlo one. This one hasn't bobbled at all, so it definitely deserves points for that. At all, actually. It's kind of starting to a tiny bit in places, but I mean, when we can compare that to the Toteme one, to say there's what, £390 difference between the two. This was £70, £380 difference between the two. This was £67, I think. That's where I just think that kind of wear, after a couple of wears, maybe I wore that 4 times or something, isn't really acceptable. And that way that it's washed, this is washed really, really nicely. This is the kind of one you could definitely put in the washing machine. Same for the COS one as well, which for me is so worth mentioning, because I'm always going to want things that are more low maintenance, and hand washing and leaving things to dry in radiators for like 24 hours at a time is definitely not low maintenance for me anyway. But it's the shape of this that kind of lets it down. And when I was watching the video back, each segment, this one to me actually looked the cheapest on. I don't know again if it's the colour and my kind of preference of the colour not being quite right, although I do think it's quite a flattering colour, if I do say so myself. But there's the shape and the cut of it, just the boxiness of the body mixed with the long sleeves. Yes, you do get some really nice detailing like this seam on it, which then if you compare it to say the Uniqlo one, you are getting something more for your money in terms of the design. But I don't know that the kind of extra details of the design, the longer sleeves, the rolled up cuffs, these bits and the drop sleeve actually make it look more expensive to me anyway. Maybe just because it feels like it pulls away from it being a really classic piece, which I always prefer. But yeah, it just didn't quite hit the mark for me in the way that I wanted it to. I do have a very high opinion of Arket knits and hold them to a very high standard, because I've got some knits from Arket that I've had for years and wear really well and wash really well and last for a really long time. So I was kind of scrutinising this one quite hard. And I think in comparison to the COS one, to say that we've got a £40 price difference between the two, the COS one definitely isn't worth £40 more in terms of the quality. For me, the cut of it though just makes it look more elevated. I think it's not a quality thing, it's the cut and it's the shape, and it's probably my own personal style and preference that to me that does look more expensive. And this, if anything, feels more like a wool jumper, so it gets points for that. But extra picky there, so they're going in joint 4th place. Okay, in 2nd place, we're going to put the navy grey one. If you were to close your eyes and touch all of them, you would guess that this is the most expensive one, 100%. It is so soft, it's so thick, it's definitely going to bobble. It's starting to a little bit like on the sleeves and things, but nothing, I mean, that's not a bobble, that's just a bit of fluff. Nothing in comparison to the Toteme one, which has obviously bobbled so much. To say this is also really thick knit, it's washed completely fine. I would be a bit hesitant to put it through the washing machine, I will be honest, so maybe it needs to lose some points for that. But it's hand washed fine and it's dried a lot quicker than the Toteme one has, which is still wet. But yeah, it's the quality of it is exceptional. It is just thick, soft, it feels luxurious, it's really, really, really warm. It's just the shape of it that I think is really letting it down. I wish the sleeves were longer and wider. It's just something about it for me, and maybe again it's my body type, seems a little bit unflattering when I wear it. But I think in terms of buying an expensive knit and it genuinely feeling like it's great quality, genuinely feeling like you've bought something that is worth that price tag in terms of the quality, and I'm sure will wear really, really well going forward because of that, with all that appropriate upkeep, obviously. This definitely is something that I would recommend. I mean, I just think it still looks great. Like, it just, yeah, it looks great. It looks expensive to me and feels expensive and lives up to that price tag. It's just the shape of it that I'm finding is letting it down slightly for me. 1st place leaves us with Uniqlo. No surprises here, no surprises for me anyway. I think they've won every knitwear testing basics I've ever done. It's not perfect by any means. I would say if you're getting a dark one, if you have a dog or a cat or a pet, if you have blonde hair, this is going to be covered in fur. Like, fluff and hair is clinging to this, and I've just lint rolled it and already it's kind of a little bit fluffy. Which I think is due to the fact the texture is slightly rougher than the others, so things cling onto it a little bit more. But like I said, by no means is it scratchy or anything. It is the scratchiest, but still not scratchy at all. To compare this to the way that the navy grey one feels, they're completely incomparable. There is a huge, huge, huge difference in quality, but there is also a huge, huge difference in price. And I think for £30, when I was watching the video back, to me, this one looks the best. The shape of it is the best. It's so simple, but just so well executed. I recommend sizing up, but your normal size would fit as well. It depends on how oversized you want something to be. While this one's been in the wash and I've not been trying to wear it, I've missed this one the most, partly as well just because it's a black jumper, which obviously I like wearing a lot, but the shape of it, it's just great. They have just nailed knitwear. And like I said, it's by no means perfect, and to touch it, you probably would actually guess it's the most affordable one, but it is, and that's kind of fine when it's the price is so much considerably less than the other ones. Even like the Arket and the COS one, to say like the COS one is more than this by, I'm sick of having to do this math, almost £100 more, £90 more. This I think is warmer than that because it is 100% wool, and there's that difference in the woolliness that I keep trying to explain. Compared to the Arket one, I think the shape of it is way better executed, way more classic. I actually think it looks more expensive on the body. To touch the Arket one, you could probably tell is slightly more expensive, and you do get those extra detailing with it, but I just don't think it's necessarily making it worth more than double the price. The Toteme one obviously has bobbled the most. This has bobbled too. A little bit through, yeah, you can see the way it's picking up fluff as well. So yeah, it has bobbled. It will continue to bobble. Like I said, they all will. Maybe I should be more generous with the Arket one for the fact it's the only one that hasn't really bobbled at all. The COS one, like I said, I don't think will, but it has a slight advantage because its composition is different. So yeah, there are drawbacks to this, but I think they're all well outweighed by overall what a great piece I think it is. It's easy to wash, it'll be low maintenance to keep. You can put this in the washing machine definitely on just a wool wash. I think it will last really well. I don't get the impression that the quality is subpar in the way that it was going to fall apart after a few washes or anything like that. But yeah, it's almost incomparable quality wise to the navy grey one, but in a way that's like, of course, this is a luxury item. This is like investment piece price for a jumper. This is not that. This is high street pricing. This is really, really affordable. You get something incredible for your money for this. You get something incredible for your money for this. You don't need to go and spend £300 on a jumper. If you want to, then you'll get something great with this. I recommend this or any kind of knitwear specialist brand. I think and daughter I would consider a similar quality to this over a general fashion brand like Toteme. But if you want great high street knitwear, I think Uniqlo just reigns supreme for me. So that concludes this testing basics. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for sticking with me to the end. Everything will be linked in the description box, and I'll see you in the next one.